Hello, Menno. Thanks for joining me. Let's just say roughly what's going on behind us, which is, would you like to explain in your own words what's going on, and then also say something about yourself? You understand you're homosexual, and so something about them, and why you're here, and what you're, just a short summary of what's going on and why you're here.
Okie dokie. Every month, women gather here at Speaker's Corner to speak about women's rights, and the event is called Let Women Speak. So they show up, and they just want to talk about being a woman and what it means to them. And then usually a bunch of crazy...
Well, I don't think they just want to say that. They want to say they're concerned about men who say they're women going into women's changing rooms, for example.
Well, that's the mile end of the stuff. So we also have male rapists being put in women's prisons, who then go on to rape female inmates or sexually assault them. We have males who are now being given access to rape shelters, where women want to get away from men, and some then take pictures of their erections in the bathroom. Sometimes people say, oh, well, it doesn't happen that often. What matters to me is, but why is it happening in the first place? Why are policies and laws in place that allow this and don't consider the needs and the rights of women? So I'm here to support the women.
Sure. And I'm here as a Muslim to support everybody, all of humanity. I'm not anti-anybody. I just feel like, for example, you said you're homosexual.
Yes.
And so I don't hate on homosexuals. I brought up with the idea of love for all and hatred for none. But at the same time, I think just God's laws are there to help human beings. All the teaching the Quran help you as a human being and make your life better. And if you don't want to follow it, for example, and I'm not being like an aggressive way, hopefully you don't feel that at all, right?
You're not converting me, and I'm not trying to convert you. I think that's.
I'm always trying to let's put it in a way, because I don't like even the idea.
I used to be religious.
Cool, yeah.
I was a Protestant.
Yeah.
And I sort of let that go when I was late teens, early 20s.
Yeah, sure. So everybody's got their history and journeys, and I think sometimes the history makes sense for you. Like, if you don't have a logical reason for something, then why should you follow it? Right. So if you don't understand, if Christianity doesn't make any sense to you, then why should you follow it?
And there are gay Christians.
Right.
And there are gay Muslims.
Right. Okay.
And there are some Muslims who, take a very different view, and there's Christians who take a very different view. I was on a train last year talking to evangelical Christians from the States, and they agreed with me on, women should be able to speak and we should all acknowledge the reality of sex, but they disagreed with homosexuality, and she's like, you can come to a church. And I said, yeah, and then you'll try to change me. And she's like, yes, until the day I die. And I'm like, oh.
Actually, that's a good point, right? I am trying to, let's say, convert you to Islam, but you don't have to. Like, in Islam, it says there's no compulsion in matters of religion. That's in the Quran.
Well,
the Quran is
come from the heart. What's the point?
Right. So, but when I say I'm trying to convert you, I'm trying to convert let's say I'm a maths teacher as well, and I'm trying to convert my students to not Islam, to be good mathematicians.
Right.
You're just trying to
maths comes from there.
Anyway. So, but the idea is I'm trying to convince people, but you don't have to listen. I never go into a debate or a discussion where I'm expecting the outcome is you have to agree with me. My main thing is very long term. It's like, share information. Let's hear both sides.
Which is what I do about this kind of stuff on my own YouTube channel.
Perfect. And I think that's the sad thing about this, because I've been actually going round asking different people in the group where I say, basically it's called, what do they call these themselves? Like pro-trans rights?
Trans rights activists,
sure. So I was asking them, like, can I have a nice conversation with you? I'm not going to be horrible or anything. Just let's hear your point of view. I'm going to give my point of view. But nobody wanted that. And I think that's a dangerous position to have, where you decided you're right and everybody else has to agree with you. It's a bit of a dangerous starting point, because then where does that lead to?
To this. Yeah. To them thinking that the words that you speak that they disagree with are somehow a form of violence. Now, if they say that your words are violence, to them that justifies using actual violence against you. Now, gay rights, we haven't had them that long. And again, some of your viewers may disagree that we have them in the first place. But how the gay movement got those was through debate. Talk and talk and talk, especially with the people who disagreed with it, to say, all right, let's have it. Let's have this debate, and let's approach it with logic and reason and fairness.
Yeah.
We never went about it this way.
I
And
agree.
in a way, what these trans right activists are doing, they're using all that goodwill that the gay movement had built up. They're piggybacking on that, and then saying, you must support us now because now it's our turn. And that's why they always lump us together, LGB with the T. Whereas I'm a gay man. I'm not an LGBT person. I'm a gay man. I'm just the G. And then we have lesbians who are the L. Lesbians and gay men, very different kettle of fish.
So that's kind of like
Trans is anathema. It's the opposite, because trans says a child can be born in the wrong body, a boy can be a girl can be a boy.
So now let that be the intro to the thing I wanted to talk about, which is that without God, you cannot have an objective morality or fixed rules about. You can't say for sure what is right and what is wrong, because it just boils down to your opinion and social norms and things like that. What are your thoughts about that? And then I'll kind of explain my thoughts more about that.
I mean, I've thought about that, obviously, because I used to be religious myself. So that's the kind of question that, philosophically you entertain naturally, I guess. I think what's interesting is, so I would say I've been godless half my life, or I believed in God for half my life, and then for the other half I didn't. And for me, that hasn't made me less fair or a good person. I still open the door for people. I still carry people, old ladies, suitcases, whatever. But I think there's a very interesting point that religion, especially in the West, used to provide a lot of structure. And rules, if you like. And we've lost that. And now people are looking for something to replace that. There was a really interesting talk that somebody did called Why God Won't Go Away. Because as humans, we still have a need to believe in something. We want answers to all the big questions of life, and if we can't find them, then we'll make it up. That's just how the human.
In fact, psychologists like Viktor Frankl explain you cannot be happy unless you have meaning in your life, and you have to get that meaning from somewhere.
And you have to get it from somewhere. So all these kids, the way I see it, they are lost. Now you might say they are lost because they don't have God in their life. I say they are lost because they're disconnected from, nature, their own bodies, because this is a disembodiment, body disassociation sort of cult. So it's a bit hard to focus, but that's screaming in the background. They're trying to fill that void with something, and they've replaced it, in my opinion, with another religion, and that's the religion of gender, as in you are whatever you feel you are. And to me, there's a lot of narcissism in that and arrogance. Whereas I guess one thing that religion gives you is, the need to be humble, and obviously to pray and to worship. You literally go on your knees. Whereas this is much more centered around the self. Yeah. So there, I think, is an interesting talking point.
So I think that although people are generally nice enough, or they're polite, but I think you pointed out something very important, that they're only polite to a very low level nowadays. And I'm not hating on Western society, but you can see the biggest killer in Western society is basically, what was the word? Loneliness, right?
Loneliness is huge.
Right. So as a Muslim, I don't mind quoting a statistic that says that as congregation numbers in churches have gone down, so has happiness gone down. And this is quoted by atheist psychologists who are just very honest about the facts.
Makes sense, because again, churches or mosques provide community. These kids, they're building communities online, and it's not the same as real life and face to face.
And it's not very inclusive and kind. You have to 100% agree with them.
It's about compliance. That's why, in a way, I compare it to an extremist or an extreme form of religion, because it's all about compliance. You can't question it. I mean, look at the Middle Ages when, was it Galileo who said, hey, the earth is round, it goes round the sun. They went after him because he was considered either a heretic or to be blaspheming.
Yeah.
If you don't agree that trans women are women, they see you as a blasphemer and a heretic.
Yeah. So my argument is that it's a downhill spiral when you let go of God, and then this is only a natural result of more and more confusion when you don't know definitely what is right and what is wrong. So let me kind of explain that a little bit. So we said earlier on that yes, people are nice enough to each other, right? They're not completely evil, murdering
But
each
also
other.
when it suits them.
But when it suits them, right?
And
So
so take away just a tiny few things, and people turn into great. I mean, look at lockdown and,
Right.
and how they
So
went after the.
my argument is that there is a very low level of, let's say, morality,
Yeah.
because people don't pick fights for no reasons. When you go across a
That's a really good
right.
point.
So my point is that with we need a higher level of morality where people take care of each other more. There are so many problems right now for all categories of people. So, for example, relationships between men and women are annihilated at the moment because at the moment the way when you go into a very selfish approach to life where you don't have fixed morals about how you find the other person, like a mate or a lifelong partner, what's happening is people are going towards Tinder, and Tinder only serves 4% of men, and all the others are being thrown out. So there's loads of people in the West who are not in any sort of sexual relationship, and so things are breaking down left, right, and centre. And so we can say that, like you said, that you're still nice enough to pick up other people's bags or whatever.
I will help
But,
them.
yeah, well, exactly. That's really nice to hear. But it's not enough. It's too low a bar that we've set for ourselves without God.
See, I would say there's plenty of ways to give your life meaning without God, and to have a moral compass without God, or any religion. I wonder, I haven't looked into this, but I wonder how much of this is also just about pure biology. Our behavior, not just our bodies, but also our psychology. How much of our instincts are evolutionary driven? And you just used the phrase to pick a fight. Well, obviously, they're here to pick a fight. What is picking a fight about? If you look at nature, it's about territory. Women are saying we want our own single-sex spaces, and they're saying, these blokes who think they're ladies, they're saying we want to take our dicks and put them in there. It's territory. And if a few years ago there had been more of just debate, I think actually a lot of people would have been willing to compromise.
Okay, so the reason why there's no debate is also because of a lack of morality. So I always look at different.
My way or the highway.
Yes,
and even like the biggest.
So I look into a lot of statistics, and especially England,
Sure.
but also because I try to justify.
I had a nightmare on the trains.
I'll be with you in a second.
You can join the video if you like, but so I think I can't remember exact numbers, but very few people in England talk to people with a different opinion.
I love it.
Right, but then those are relatively few. So
that's why on the train
and that's a lack of morality, because you don't have kindness in other people. So if you lack kindness in other people, you're not willing to listen to other people with different opinions. Right?
You must be scared, and you must be not secure in your position. Otherwise, you'd be happy to talk.
Right. So we often claim that people are nice enough, but they're not nice enough. And the statistics show like we wouldn't be lonely in a massively overcrowded city like London unless we were so really selfish. So what people make as an argument is I'm a really nice guy, or he's a really nice guy. Morality is not going down, but I think morality is going down, because if you go to the macro statistics, because everybody claims nice things about themselves, but if you look at actually how the world is going, you can see that people are becoming more and more selfish.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. I think there's different ways, different routes that cause it. I think there's different ways to solve it, but I absolutely agree. I think people are more and more disconnected, and religion from Latin, I think the term actually means to reconnect. Religare is to reconnect, as in reconnect with the divine. In fact, this is just a little something that I wrote it down on a piece of paper once. If you take the word individual.
Oh, you can listen in.
We're talking about explaining something. Yeah. Just getting to the juicy bit. So take the word. Write this down. Right? Maybe, and then you can see it. The word individual, and then above it you write the word divine, where D-I-V-I sits on top of each other. I did that once, right? And I thought, oh, isn't that interesting? The heart of the individual is the heart of the divine, right? It's within.
Yeah, and that
Because
fits
that's why
in
it's
with
Divi.
with many religions who
Hold on.
say, yeah, go on.
Then after Divi, you have dual. So in order to access the divine within you, you have to overcome the duality of human nature. I'm using that just in a philosophical way, right? And I thought, how interesting is that? And I think what's been happening, and it's been happening for decades, is this disconnect from our inner self. Now we literally have people saying, I wear a dress, I'm a woman. That's the opposite of inner self. That's outer self. I could talk about this stuff for ages.
No, but it's interesting. You're saying something that's very similar to Islam, but Islam's got an interesting way of finding,
I'm a closeted
getting.
Muslim.
You could be. Why not? For me,
I don't
I think everybody is naturally capable. Islam is a very natural religion, right? But maybe you haven't come across that. For example, you talked about the duality. People have a lot of duality in them. For example, I don't know if I'm correctly understanding your idea of duality, but what we do often conflicts with what actually makes us happy, right?
That's
So,
that, yeah.
and the way Islam says that is to let go of your ego. Would you? So we agree a lot. So you've effectively
But all these concepts.
agreed with Islam. And
Well, I wouldn't quite go that far.
No, no. To some,
But look.
you know what Islam means?
Surrender, right?
Yes, to surrender what? Your ego.
Right.
Right, and then Arabic's an amazing language. That's why it's sort of explained in Arabic, because then the English language kind of takes a lot more words to explain simple words like Islam. Islam means peace, but also how. It explains how to find peace, inner peace, and outer peace as well, societal peace, by letting go of your ego. Surrendering your ego to who? The one creator who knows you best and has your best wishes at heart. Do you know what I mean? Wants good for you. So let's talk about something that I'm not sure if we would disagree with, but
I think there is a lot of touch points where we
Yeah.
agree. We just have a different way of then
Yeah.
contextualizing it, if you
So
like.
I want you to explain this idea of objective morality. Some people say a religious book says something and it's correct, therefore you must agree with it. Right? And I would say there's some truth in that. If you can prove that religious book has, let's say, has made a prophecy and made loads of prophecies, like the Quran says, for example, that all of the whole universe was in a closed-up mass and expanded. It's the only book that talk about the Big Bang and many other scientific facts, right? Then there's good reason to believe in it, right? But I go further and I say all the Quranic teachings, like for example, and I'm gonna make it more maybe a bit more spicy by talking about why I disagree with homosexuality, right? And what it's because everything that the Quran points out, it says it's for your own good, and I can point out. You probably know some of these things, right? So when I'm donating blood, I have to say if I am homosexual or not, if I'm a gay man or not, because
Yeah, because we weren't allowed to donate blood until just very recently, I think.
oh really? Have they changed it? Because I used to.
But I'm not sure about the ins and outs of it, but I think there's been a change.
But do you agree that it's not the medical profession being anti-gay? It's just there's a medical reason that you're far more likely to have a sexually transmitted disease, and it'll be in your blood, and they just want to protect people from that. So I'm not being anti-gay. I'm just being medical. But do you agree with that?
Well, I haven't looked into that deeply. All I know is I'm a male with wonderful, beautiful. I don't know. Sorry, the words I'm not going to use. Some people who might have HIV might take issue with me using those words.
Yeah.
I'm not HIV positive, so for that reason, my blood is.
But do you agree that it's more? Yeah, that's good. I'm glad to hear that, of course. But do you agree that these people who are making the rules about who can donate blood or not, they're not being anti-gay?
Well, I don't
By
know,
purpose.
because are they using the same logic to then say to other people you can't donate blood?
Yeah, they ask questions like, "Do you have sex with prostitutes?" and things like that.
Okay.
So, and you don't have to be gay to have sex with prostitutes.
I think most people who
You could have a male prostitute just to
who
be
go
technical.
and do that, they're probably straight men.
Yeah. So the point is that there's a logical reason for that. So what I'm saying is that there are many benefits to not being homosexual, and so I mean, can you understand that statistically, you're more likely to have mental health problems,
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
right? Okay, and so I, as somebody who loves everybody, right, yourself included, I don't want you to have mental health problems, right?
No, but a lot of the mental health problems come from living in a society where, if I say I'm gay, it's not as bad, obviously, now as it used to be, that you get abuse or you get people, being horrible to you, blah, blah, blah. You feel isolated, especially if you get kicked out of your religious community. And this is a big thing among gay men.
But okay, let me tell you, there are loads
There
of
are
people.
gay men who are religious or they are spiritual, then they get booted out of their community, and then they throw themselves into a life of sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
But I'm not sure if I totally agree with that because, first of all, most people are not going to be rude to you if you say you're gay in today's society. So it's not through bullying.
I still get called stuff just walking down the street, and it's 2023.
I mean, I'm a Muslim.
I'm an obvious gay, right?
Sure.
Just because the way I walk, the way I look, it's a bit more obvious.
Okay, I would argue that the real reason is, and this is not something that just affects homosexual people, but more so, is that the transitory nature of relationships, short-term relationships.
Well,
and I think it harms people mentally because we're designed for long-term relationships.
That's more specific to gay men than gay women.
Sure, but
Gay women are like the
that's just
opposite.
one thing at a time. I mean, I know lesbian women, and I
This is a
don't.
challenge that comes with the territory, if you like.
Yeah.
Now, I don't sit down and look at the pros and cons of being gay and go, okay, well, my dad actually said that once, right? When I was about 18, he went, "What are you? What are you?" And I'm like, well, I don't know, because I didn't know.
Yeah.
And then he went, look at it as a coin, right? You can go this way or that way, so choose the safe way. Now, obviously, this came from a place of concern.
Yeah.
But this is not a choice, I respond sexually only to men, not all men.
Yeah. So
only men.
Let's
just
wind
how
up
it
the
is.
conversation. I would think because it's an important thing. Like if you feel that you are biologically, you have no choice in what you are.
That doesn't mean I
homosexual.
say I think I'm born this way.
Yeah.
That's a whole different thing.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So I will just. I'm gonna make a point
But
and then
it's
see
pretty
what.
much for me now set in stone. At this age, it's absolutely that's how it is.
Okay.
What you pointed out was a good
Yeah.
point about the transition.
Transitory. I can't even say the word. But short-term nature relationships.
And very transactional as well.
Yes.
Not in terms of money, but I think that's a men thing rather than.
Yeah, I mean,
A
I
gay
know,
man because with men.
I know lesbian women. I don't think it makes any difference that way either. But yeah.
Well, I'm 47 and I've seen a huge difference between women are, it's a stereotype, but women are about, hey, I like you, let's move in, and they have a life together. Gay men are much more about, again, I'm generalizing, about, the quick
Yeah,
thing.
I agree that men are less
That's a challenge
social.
for us. So for me, as a homosexual man, that's something to address with my friends and my gay community.
Yeah.
How can we be better people? How can we form better relationships? Why is it that we are much less emotionally adept at forming solid relationships than women?
Yeah.
So that's our job.
So I'll just my argument to say that it's not biological is that we can see different environments. There are more cases of homosexuality. For example, if you go into a prison, if you start off as not being gay, you go to prison because you have less choices.
That's not homosexuality. That's just Can I swear?
That's
just
I want to have sex.
I want to have sex, and here's a man, and men specifically, more so than women, will always find a way, and it's more about a physical urge and a need. And when you're in a situation like pirates on a ship, you can't go anywhere to get what you really want. So some might just go, okay, but they won't consider it gay sex or homosexual.
Sure. And I think it's very interesting in Islam that there are all sorts of rules that suggest that basically you can feel homosexual, or you can have the urge, gain interest in the opposite sex over time. Okay, and that there are rules. For example, don't look at the opposite gender's genitals. I mean, no, not the opposite, same genitals. Yeah,
I
or
love
share.
same-sex genitals.
No. The point is.
Your viewers will go, that's it. That's the devil.
No. That's fine. The point is that what I'm trying to get across is that it's very easy to get into the mindset because our minds are what you call plastic. You can change.
Neuroplasticity.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So in a prison environment where people are sleeping in the same place and there's less boundaries between men and they will start looking at each other. I think they even have to go toilet in the cells sometimes.
They shower together or whatever.
Right.
Look, I think
So
in those situations, they just want to get off.
Right.
And then when they're out of prison, that doesn't mean that they are now gay men.
Yeah, and I'd say the same thing happens outside prison as there are poorer, weaker relationships between men and women.
Yeah.
It's easier to have this kind of transactional relationship that you're talking about, short-term relationship.
It's a sign of the times.
Yeah.
But I think that gay men get caught up in that much more than others. And I think that, again, that's not necessarily because we're gay men, it's because we're men and we're just wired to, spread our sheets and get that quick fix. But you just reminded me of someone that I used to see, a Muslim guy, who was all about Allah, Allah, and he wrote lots of poetry about how much, Islam meant to him. But he would come to me. Now, he was married. And when I didn't know that. So when I found out that he was married, I was the one who said no. Now, he has so much of, Allah in his life. I'm the godless person. But I'm the one in that situation who said, as much as I enjoyed meeting him, I can't do this because this feels wrong.
And I believe that's possible because if you don't have a good relationship with your wife, etc.
Well, they just got married a year before. She was expecting a child. So, in that situation, I put my own physical needs, if you like. I put her needs above mine, the wife, because I felt bad, because I thought, what if the wife knows about this? This would break her heart. So I don't know what the reasons were why he did that and why he went about it that way.
Yeah, I'm going to try to center myself again. Sorry.
But in that situation, I was the one who went, whose moral compass kicked in, if you like, which kind of brings us back to your earlier question.
Yeah.
What was it that guided that, and what was it that didn't guide him? I mean, these are big philosophical questions.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And I'm trying to wind it up to what's happening behind us, and why is there increasing number of this is something I want to point out quickly without making this video too long. Is I think I'm not I don't hate on transsexuals, let's say, for example, but I do feel that in today's society, because people are so disconnected, they're not good at sharing their feelings or anything like that, and they feel for example, a man feels they need to be like a woman to express their emotions. But in Islam, for example, people are always hugging, they always have to respect each other, not even respect each other, recognize each other. So what I mean by that is they have to, nowadays in society, people don't make eye contact, they don't smile. In Islam you have to smile, you have to say peace be upon you, and it makes a difference. If I smile,
right, or
it actually transfers happiness.
Be happy.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that's missing in society, and my point is that because people are hurting and missing so much inside, they are going to all these different things. So there's a combination of not having a clear idea of what is right and wrong from God, right? But also, because of that, there's so many things that are breaking down in society in terms of relationships for everybody, and people are grasping onto these things. Like you said, this is a religion where they're shouting and being angry because they want to stand for something because they don't have any meaning in their lives. And by the way, you said you can create your own meaning. You cannot create your own meaning if you believe on one side. Like, if you don't believe in God,
no, I don't.
Then you don't. But what you're effectively saying is everything is random.
No, I don't.
Okay, so, but I'll say that necessarily you have to, because otherwise they're turning.
Like, if I eat a sandwich, there's nothing random about how my body then takes that food, digests it, takes out the nutrients, and gets rid of the rest.
Sure, no, but in the great scheme of things, you're saying there's no purpose, there's no creator who said this is the function of why you're here.
To me, that's very simplistic.
Yeah.
However, that doesn't mean, I think life is fascinating.
Yeah.
Humans are fascinating. We're very complex. There's lots of big questions that we'll never answer. answer. Because of that,
I think so what I do, by the way, do check out the link on the bottom of the video where I talk about how there are very simple answers to those questions, like how you can figure out, and I'll share my numbers or whatever, right? You can go to the website and we can discuss and continue the discussion about that. But there are very simple ways to find out your purpose just by how you function, right? What works, what doesn't, psychologically, like asking psychologists. So in short, my argument is that you cannot make your own purpose. Like, for example, if I have a remote control TV for a TV, right? That remote control doesn't decide its own purpose. Only the creator decides its purpose.
well, I would agree that, look, every person has a personality, and when I said humans are fascinating, it's like how much of that is social, and that has grown through how you've grown up and your experiences in life. How much of that is actually baked in? I don't know, but that's why I want to read more about evolutionary psychology, because I just found a book about that, and because I always used to think
I would love to talk to you about that in the future and keep that conversation going.
I am, but how much of that is really a choice? Because so much of how we feel is to do with hormones.
That's right. We can't decide everything about ourselves. Now people say, this is my truth. No, there's only one truth. You have to decide what that is. That's what science is, figuring out what reality. You don't make up your own reality.
There is a reality. I mean, they're like, oh, you are who you say you are. I'm like, no, you're not. Because I'm a Caucasian man. That was never a choice.
You're not black.
I'm a man.
Yeah. And you're not a woman.
I'm not, and I'm not straight.
And you're not a cat.
No.
Right? We can tell all of these things.
I'm not a Muslim.
What Muslims say is God willing.
About it.
Yeah. God willing, you will become, because I don't.
Inshallah.
Yes, that's right. You're getting there, right?
La is no, right?
No, don't say la. Don't.
Is that a bad word? I've just.
You're correct.
Oh.
I'm saying.
La shukran is like.
No, you know. I wasn't correct. No, I was saying, don't say no that you won't become a Muslim. We hope that you will be one day.
I doubt it, but that doesn't mean
you're open-minded.
Yeah, and I'm happy to talk to anyone, basically. You can be friends with anyone, really. It's like, why not? Because that is diversity. They don't want diversity. They want say what I say.
Thank you very much for this really interesting conversation. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Khalid, right?
Yeah. Okay. Shalom alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you. I think you know that word, right? Do you know that?
Which word was that?
Peace be upon you. Assalamu alaikum.
Okay, I haven't heard it in Arab.
Okay. Cool. Anyway, thank you very much.
May you be well, may you be happy, and all the best.
Thank you.